Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another video. If you're a student and are confused whether the iPad 10 is actually worth buying, then this video is for you. But before we start, let's cue the cinematics. The iPad 10 has definitely got to be the best iPad for students right now. Okay, that's what I initially thought, but now I have slightly changed my mind a little. The iPad 10 sits on the lower end of the iPad range. It contains features from the iPad Air 5 and the previous 9th gen iPad. Although this is a bold move from Apple, they have actually decided to keep the 10.2 inch iPad 9 from 2021 up on their website, which means this is no longer the true budget iPad. And let's not forget the hefty price increase. That starts from £499 or $449 for those of you in the US, which basically puts us students in a very awkward situation. With its design, Apple have finally modernized the iPad 10 with the flat sides and back, along with the Touch ID home button, and the bezel surrounding the larger 10.9 inch screen is slimmer. However, it must be noted that although Apple says it's an all-screen design, it really isn't. The bezels still look fairly chunky to me. I have had this iPad for just over a month now, and despite its slim design, I would say the iPad is rigid and sturdy. The USB-C for charging and data transfer is an awesome addition, as it is not only great for fast charging, but for the ability to easily attach SD card dongles and HDMI ports using the USB-C hub. The smart connector is situated on the side rather than on the back as seen on the iPad Air and Pro. Having the Touch ID sensor embedded inside the power key feels natural, so you can unlock and open your device with one press. Unfortunately, Apple have ditched the 3.5mm headphone jack, which honestly feels like a bad move from Apple, as this device will be aimed more at kids or students who might not have wireless earbuds. Apple have really taken a leap of faith with the more vibrant saturated color options of yellow and pink, which really stand out. There's also a blue color option, which is the one I got right here, and you also have a silver choice if you're after something a little safer, but not black. For students, I would say it is a very portable device with a modern design that will fit into your bag very easily. To protect its beautiful modernized design, I would recommend you invest in a protective case. While Apple's folio cases can be fairly expensive, I have personally always opted for third-party options. I went for this case right here by G-Tech, which fits perfectly and ensures your device is well protected. And they have even included a pencil holder, which is very considerate since it cannot be docked on the iPad. The 10.9 inch display has a resolution of 2360 by 1640, which is fairly good, but it lacks the P3 color gamut for extra depth of color in movies. There's also no anti-reflective coating, which is very noticeable if you're working in bright conditions, and the display isn't laminated to the outer glass, meaning there's a slight but noticeable gap between the components. I would say it's a perfectly good display for reading, making notes, watching movies, or even playing games. With a peak brightness of 500 nits and a resolution that is sharp enough to accommodate the everyday activities of a student. It's responsive when just using my fingers or writing with the Apple Pencil. This comes with the A14 bionic chip, which is fairly powerful, so making this a very capable device. If you are looking to open up two different windows to work on simultaneously, this iPad has you covered. It also leads to quicker export times if you're using this machine to edit your videos. Another nice boost is the 4GB of RAM, enabling you to work simultaneously with more apps, which is always handy when you are reading journals, watching videos, and writing up those long essays. One frustrating aspect of this iPad is the base storage that comes at 64GB, which I think for most people is too small. However, if you are willing to use an external storage, or maybe you have an iCloud subscription, then that shouldn't be too much of a problem. However, Apple is still holding back the 128GB storage size, which I think would have been a sweet spot for many, but they are instead forcing the user to jump all the way to 256GB, which comes with a hefty extra cost too. You also get 5G if you opt for the Wi-Fi and cellular option, but for students I would suggest you go for the Wi-Fi only model and save that money to spend on accessories. If you find yourself needing cellular data, then you can always use the hotspot on your mobile phone. The Wi-Fi 6 on this device loads pages fairly quick, which is always handy when you are going through a ton of research papers. This iPad runs on iPadOS 16.1, giving you access to a range of exceptional apps, many of which are made specifically for this screen size. You can easily work simultaneously with two windows open at the same time, but you do miss out on the Stage Manager feature, which allows for the resizing of apps and window layouts. This feature would have been really good to have, especially for students. I'm not going to go in too deep into the camera specs, but here's an overview of everything you need to know. Apple has smartly repositioned the front camera from portrait to landscape, meaning it's directly facing you when you place the iPad in landscape orientation. This makes so much sense as you're no longer at an odd angle on video calls, and you also get center stage, which works really well. I would say the 12MP front camera is sharp enough for those Zoom calls. The 12MP rear camera is fairly decent. When shooting in good light, the camera quality is sharp and colourful, and you get video support of up to 4K at 60 frames per second, which is always nice to have. Obviously the quality is not the best, but you end up with sharp and colourful images, which is more than good enough to take captures of your notes so that you can annotate them in your own time. The battery life of this device has been able to get me through the day very easily. Apple continues to meet or exceed its 10-hour estimate it provides for every iPad. I was able to get just over 11 hours while carrying out my everyday tasks. Of course, more intensive tasks like gaming or editing videos will reduce that time significantly. Combining this with the Folio keyboard throughout the day, the iPad was still left with over 40% battery with 4 to 5 hours of continuous use. Using the Apple Pencil and charging it from the device barely has any effect on the battery, which is definitely a plus for us students. The switch to USB-C charging means you can fast charge your iPad and get back to work, which is a slight productivity hack in my books. A number of odd decisions have been made with this iPad, but I was really left confused with what Apple were thinking when it came to the Apple Pencil. This iPad is only compatible with the first generation Apple Pencil. It's responsive to draw and write with, turning the iPad into a digital notebook, allowing it to become more than a laptop replacement. However, instead of just adding support for the newer Apple Pencil 2 and letting it wirelessly charge on the iPad, Apple was selling a small adapter that connects the Apple Pencil to a USB-C cable and then to the iPad. The dongle comes at around $10 and is now being included with the Apple Pencils going forward, but the solution is frustrating as it can be easy to lose or misplace the adapter. The extra wire just makes it look so unclean when putting the pencil to charge. Apple should have instead used that dead space on the side of the iPad where the pencil can seamlessly dock for charging. I get that for those of you who still have the old pencil can still keep using it. However, the charging situation is just downright strange and isn't what I would expect from Apple. Honestly, writing on it feels great. The pencil is super responsive. I'm currently using GoodNotes, which is jam-packed with really awesome features for students, but there are other ones to choose from on the App Store. To get that Paperlike feel, I would recommend you invest in a screen protector such as this one right here by Paperlike. Their screen protectors are designed to provide that paper-like experience on an iPad. The accurate distribution of nanodots provides you with the right amount of resistance to mimic the feeling of writing on paper. And by the way, it also sounds like you are writing on paper. Now, with or without the Paperlike screen protector, the iPad is still awesome to write on. The Magic Keyboard Folio is another optional accessory if you want to turn your iPad into a laptop to further enhance your typing experience. However, it does come at a hefty price of £279 or $249 if you're in the US, which obviously is not budget friendly at all. Aside from the heavy price tag, the keyboard itself is great to type on. With plenty of travel and spaced out keys, it even has a function row of shortcut keys as well, which is always handy. The two-piece design provides the user with versatility, which means you can detach the keyboard and just use the kickstand to hold up the iPad to watch a film or conduct a video chat. Honestly, this is not a must-have accessory for students, but if you truly need one, then I would suggest looking at third-party alternatives such as the Combo Touch by Logitech. I will leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Overall, I would say the iPad 10 is not the perfect iPad for students. Don't get me wrong, it's an excellent tablet with a good screen, strong performance, and plenty of really noticeable upgrades over the previous generation iPad. But I just don't think it would be ideal for students, as there are a few things this iPad really needs. With the iPad 9 still being sold in Apple stores, I think it is safe to say that the iPad 10 is not a budget iPad. What's crazy is that if you're in the UK and want a 256GB iPad along with the Magic Keyboard Folio and the first generation Apple Pencil, then you're going to be spending £1,067, more than what the MacBook Air M1 costs. Which really gets you thinking whether this iPad is really a good match for students. But if I was on a tight budget, I would go for the iPad 9 as it still is a very capable device. But I would always recommend saving up a little bit more and instead go for the iPad Air 5, because till this day I still think it is the perfect iPad for students with its M1 processor and support for the second generation Apple Pencil. If you're stuck in the middle choosing between the right iPad, I would suggest you pop into your nearby Apple store to get that in-person hands-on experience. And don't forget, you can also check out the 9th gen iPad as it's still available in stores. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I will do my very best to get back to you. I've been Ryan and I'll hopefully catch you guys on the next one. Take care.